Hello. Um, Hope you're all doing okay on this Easter Sunday. Um, I thought I would upload a short video on this race, the 250 at Fairyhouse, um, as a new way of communicating with my followers on Twitter. I've actually got to give this plug to my friend Right Judge I Am at Right Judge I Am on Twitter, who does similar things and is worth a follow. So basically, yeah, what I want to do is to show you how I would tend to approach a race. Um, I'm actually cheating slightly. I actually tend to do this on paper rather than on the computer, but clearly that wouldn't work as well for an upload like this. So what we've got here is a basic spreadsheet with the race, all the horses present, and then from there I have 6 columns. So I've got their master speed rating. That's a speed rating that I allocate using my sectional process, and in essence, that's generally speaking their best performance from a clock and sectional perspective. It's not their last time out performance or anything, it's their best performance. I sometimes adjust that slightly if later evidence comes along and contradicts that substantially. So, for example, I'd rated Augusta Kate 143 going into Cheltenham, and I've actually adjusted that to 140 following her performance. Airlie Beach, for example, who's top rated on my speed figures, I've not adjusted because she clearly ran well below her best at Cheltenham. Um, I've also got their official rating, which is the rating allocated by the handicapper, their current price in the market expressed in decimals, their implied percentage chance of victory. And what that is basically their price reflected in a percentage term. So 1.79 is a 55.81% chance of winning. 8.8 is an 11.36% chance, and so on. Then I've got my implied percentage chance based on the tissue prices that I've accumulated. So whilst the market thinks that Let's Dance a 55.81% chance, I've calculated that at 41%. Likewise with the other horses, and then I've expressed that in the form of a price, um, and that's calculated to, if you'll see down here, 100%. Whereas the actual market, the Betfair prices were, the market was around 102%. So basically, what I'm looking to do here is, as I say, to give you an insight into how I would approach a race. Eventually, I'd like to be in a situation where I'm not just showing you data, I'm actually going through a race, pinpointing particularly important parts in a race, important sectionals, that kind of thing. But at the moment, I don't have the capacity for that. I'm working a website, and hopefully that will all be part of that. So we'll start with Let's Dance. I mean, she's clearly got a favourites chance by any reckoning. She won well at Cheltenham, um, at a distance that I think is fair to say it was actually short of her best. Um, from a sectional point of view, you certainly couldn't have said that that was a high quality race by any means. Um, so this is Thursday at Cheltenham, and you have presenting Percy's sectionals from his race, Nichols Canyon's um, sectionals from his race, the World Hurdle, and then Let's Dance's sectionals from her race. So if you look at, so this is first to second hurdle, second to third hurdle, third to fourth hurdle, that kind of thing. So if you look at the pace in that race, so this is from Let's Dance's first hurdle to 3 out, you can see they ran 132 seconds to that point, whereas in the relative period for Nichols Canyon's race, they ran 133. In the relative period for presenting Percy's race, they ran 131. So given that presenting Percy and Nichols Canyon's races were over 3 miles, you can see that, straight away the pace in the Mares Hurdle wasn't brilliant by any means. And indeed, the sectionals from 3 out to the line that I've clocked at 100.92 compared to 101.16 and 100.73. They aren't much better than 3 mile races. So you can tell straight away that the Mares Hurdle, from a time point of view, wasn't a particularly strong contest, and that's backed up by the form. Very few of these horses are going to go on to top class. But that's not to say that Let's Dance, isn't a top class performer. I mean, she didn't have to be at her best to win there. I rated that performance that day around 140. You certainly couldn't rate it beyond 140, but in her penultimate start at Leopardstown, I'd have her run into 145. Today's conditions suit her. It's 2 miles 20 furlongs. And there are, other factors you have to take into account. I think the important thing with Let's Dance, and I think the reason she is so short, is she has been consistent in improving her form. So the other horses in the race, Augusta Kate, Colin's Sister, Early Beach, Shattered Love, Barra, at least half of these horses have performed to a similar level to Let's Dance at their best, but they haven't done it last time out, and they haven't done it, under championship conditions. So basically, what you're banking on with Let's Dance is her running to a similar level, running to the same kind of form she ran to last time. And to be perfectly honest, I think she is too short, not because she's not a top class performer, but because I think there is scope for other horses to run to their best and get pretty close to her. So if you look at Augusta Kate, she ran well, I thought, at Cheltenham. She blundered at an inopportune moment, and she stayed on well close home. Ruby never got too serious with her. He knew her chance was gone. I think the important thing as well is that race, that 3 mile Albert Bartlett novices race, was actually the strongest novices race at Cheltenham from a clock perspective. They put in a serious time performance that day. I had Penn Hill running to 165. And on a line through Holstone, who's consistently run to marks in the low 150s, I think that's probably about right. So Augusta Kate, while she was on the face of it disappointing, when you take into account the blunder she made, and also the fact that was a very good race, she's not without a chance here. You'd possibly be slightly worried by the trip, but anyway. Early Beach as well. Going back to her, I'd had a substantial bet on her at Cheltenham. The issue with her was the kind of vibes that you were getting prior to Cheltenham. Kevin Blake made reference to the fact that when he'd gone along to Willie Mullins' stable tour, there was a very poor vibe about her. She was clearly working poorly. But what I think is interesting here is Paul Townend would always get the second choice, and with Mullins entering 4 horses here, I find it interesting he chose Early Beach over Augusta Kate. If you look at some of the comments that were made here, Patrick Mullins said Early Beach won her Grade 1 here against the Geldings. She was disappointing in Cheltenham, but perhaps she wasn't suited coming off a long layoff. We're hoping that's blown away the cobwebs and she'll come back to her best. Likewise, Augusta Kate was a bit disappointing in Cheltenham too. She made a bad mistake in the back straight, and she couldn't get back into it after that. She seems well since, and coming back against her own sex, she has to be taken seriously. So yeah, these are 2 horses who clearly have to leave their last time out performances behind, but at their best, based on Augusta Kate's second, or rather her fall when she was going to be a likely second to Death Duty, I'd rated that 143 at the time. Early Beach's victory against Saturnus on her penultimate start was a serious piece of form, as was her beating of Shattered Love. So again, you're taking a chance here that these horses will return to their best. But I think the market's underrated them slightly. So you have Augusta Kate at 10.87% chance, Early Beach 9.09%. I calculated it using my blind tissue, both of them having a similar kind of 12% chance. I think they can be left alone. I think the market's got them pretty much spot on, but they wouldn't be without a chance, as I say, if they returned to their best. The horse I fancy at the prices, and you'll be able to tell this from my spreadsheet, is Colin's sister, who I have on her last start running to 145. She missed Cheltenham. She was injured that day. But if you look at the market has her down 8.8, 11% chance. I would say that's underrates her chance. I think she's got a much closer to 20% chance, and therefore she'd be a bet at the prices. If you take a little look at her form, that victory has been franked since Happy Diva, who she was giving £5 to that day, has since run a good second. Miss Parfois has since won, and won in a good speed time. And also Theatre Territory of Nikki Henderson's, who was also receiving £5 from her. She's gone on to run a good race at Newbury in the Mares Handicap, where she ran a 12-length sixth off a mark of 127. So when you consider that Colin's sister beat her by 20 lengths, giving her £5, that would suggest in pure form terms that Colin's sister put in a performance of 140 plus, and that was backed up by the clock that day. As I say, that I'd rated that 145, which is as good a performance as Let's Dance has done. The issue, and I'll bring you over to the 32 red column that Paddy Brennan alludes to, and I think it's a fair point, is that her best form has been on ground a bit softer. He says, and I would have loved her chances here even more had the ground been a bit softer. So let's hope there's plenty of rain in Ireland. The ground in Ireland tends to run a bit softer than over here anyway. But that would have to be a slight concern, and I suppose that's factored into the bigger price that's available on Betfair. The other two horses, Shattered Love was clearly very disappointing at Cheltenham. She was well backed on the day. I have to say I fancied her with her £7 allowance. Again, what's interesting from a kind of an external factors point of view is the fact that Brian Cooper has chosen to ride her over Barra. Barra has run using my speed figures to a rating of around 137. I thought she was better than the bare result at Cheltenham as well. Remember going back to the pace of the race, there was no real pace on at Cheltenham, and she was held up that day. She made stylish headway into the race, and she was just ultimately outclassed by Let's Dance. She has to be upgraded for that because she actually came from a less promising position than Let's Dance. But she does have a little bit to find on form and on my speed figures, which is why I've rated her chance in the race pretty similar to the market. The market's got her as having a 5.71% chance. I've rated her chance as being 6%. And I think, the fact that Brian Cooper's chosen Shattered Love over her, I think is fairly significant. And he mentions in his 32 red column that he fancied her to run a big race there, but she just didn't fire at all. We have found a reason for that, and the form of her earlier subsequent defeat of subsequent Grade 2 winner Forge Meadow is very strong. I think, again, she's got a slightly better chance than the market suggests. I would have her as being a 9-1 shot rather than a 13-1 shot. And I wouldn't put you off having an interest there. Good Time Tara, really, it's hard to get a handle on. I think the fact that she's fourth choice, Mikey Fogarty's a decent jockey, but I've rated her around 130 on my speed figures, which would suggest she has a stone to find. So I'm into the last minute here. So basically what I'm trying to get across is it's all about price when you're approaching a race. So clearly Let's Dance has the best chance of winning today. But I just think that chance is slightly less than what the market suggests. And I think there is perhaps an over-reliance on recent form here, when actually you have horses like Augusta Kate, Early Beach and Shattered Love. If they were to return to their best, they've all run to similar, or in Early Beach's case, better marks than Let's Dance. And likewise, I think the best value price of the lot is Colin's sister, who's perhaps been underrated because she's up against these classy Irish horses. I think she's a good bet at the prices. I hope that was helpful. I'll try and do more detailed races like this in the future. Cheers, guys. Bye.